Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial when you visit audibletrial.com/teacherrecharge. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Just visit audibletrial.com/teacherrecharge today. My name is Fred Kapp. I'm the host of the Teacher Recharge podcast, and I just applied for grad school. Today's episode, we're going to talk about how I'm going to afford it and how you could too, and a lot more. Stay tuned. Let's get it started. Hello, Teacher Recharge listeners. Welcome to another edition of the Teacher Recharge podcast, the only podcast on the internet hosted by me, Fred Kapp. Today's guest is Travis Johnson. He is the founder of Warriors Wallet. He started the journey to Warriors Wallet after a decade of helping others get their day-to-day finances in order. He's helped hundreds of families pay off more than $6 million in debt. The perspective he provides bridges the gap between knowledge and action. He's a University of Oklahoma graduate, Navy veteran. He's the Books by Vets second vice president, public relations director, and finance committee member. He also serves on the board of the S.H.I.N.E Foundation, S.H.I.N.E Foundation. He's a graduate of Team South X and teaches Reboot Combat Recovery, hosted by Life Troops. He's been married for 17 years and has two wonderful children, attending school in Moore, Oklahoma. He's ordained, he's a public speaker, he's a published author, and he's a coach. And he loves adding value to other people's lives. So without further ado, here's Travis Johnson. All right, Teacher Recharge listeners, we have a very unique, very special guest on the show today. His name is Travis Johnson, and he is, you know what? I'll let him explain it because he's finance, he's a lot of things. So go ahead. What makes you you?
You know, that awkward moment where someone's like, oh yeah, tell me about yourself. And you're like, oh my God, who am I?
Yeah, right? Who am I?
Who am I? Well, I think I'm on the podcast today. I run Warriors Wallet, help people straighten out their finances, shed the chains of generational poverty and really give them a leg up in life. It's probably the main reason I'm here. I'm also a senior VP with Books by Vets. We help veterans, first responders, and their families get published for free. We do an anthology every summer, and we help people do, a book about their life. We let them write murder mysteries or science fiction books or whatever they want to get out of their system. And then I'm also still active duty Navy, coming up on 19 years.
Wow.
Getting ready to head to Bahrain. Actually, I check out on my command this Friday.
Wow. Okay.
Getting ready to go to Rhode Island for a few months of training before I go over to Bahrain. All sorts of fun stuff. Looking
at your background and stuff, your bio that you sent me, and a few things jump out. Well, more than a few. Wow, this is just full of crazy, awesome stuff. So first of all, let's cut to the chase right now. You've helped hundreds of families pay off debt. It says $6 million, over $6 million in debt you've helped people pay off. If you could just say like fastest ways to get out of debt, whether it be student loans or whether it be just credit card debt, what would be the first tips you could give anyone out there?
Well, number one, you can't dig out of debt if you're still holding onto the shovel. If you want to get out of debt, it's a fantastic goal. It's a fabulous goal. It's one that my family's done, and we've helped other families get out as well. You can't take out new debt. You can't pay off the credit card or try to pay extra on your credit card, and you're still swiping it every weekend.
Right.
Financing that TV or that furniture set or whatever the case may be. I've always heard that, oh, you're always going to have a car payment. That's not true. That's not true at all. You can't take out new debt. The second thing is, if you don't save money, you're going to be broke your whole life. Doesn't matter how much you have coming in, it's how much you keep. And if you're not making it on 90% of your income, you can't make it on 120% because it's not the money, it's the behavior. And then you have to invest in your future. Have to. If you want to get ahead at any point in life, you have to have your money work for you. Why would you take out debt swipe your credit cards, build bigger banks when you could be building your own empire in your own house. Because if you're not building your own dreams, you're building someone else's dreams.
Definitely. Me and a lot of my friends and a lot of people I know who are even teachers are deciding to go back to school. So go get a master's, whether it be in education or anything else. And that's an interesting thing. When would you, what would you suggest with that? Would you suggest doing that right after you get out of college, or would you suggest kind of waiting until you have maybe more financial backing from yourself?
Well, I mean, the time to go and get extra education is always right now, but you have to be prepared. You have to be set up. If you're a young buck and you're leaving high school and you're getting ready to go, there is hundreds of millions of dollars of unused grants and scholarships left on the table every year.
Yeah.
Get an app like FastWeb, which is free, or Scholly, and take time and fill out those applications. You put in your demographics and it spits out all of these scholarships that you qualify for. I mean, I'm 37, in the military, white male, married, punched in my stats, and I qualified for 82 different scholarships.
Wow.
People always say, like, oh, the scholarships don't apply to me and this and that. And what that means is that's what they heard, and then they never looked. Things like Google account, you have autofill forms. You write a paper or two. Some of these have video submissions. So you're not writing a paper, you're doing a video transmission, a video submission of you and what you want to do, and send it out there. If you apply for a few each day, at the end of the week, you have applied for 10 or 20. If you get even one of those a week, that might be $500, $1,000, $5,000 in your pocket.
And that's not just for master's programs either. That's for everybody. Yes, that's for even high school seniors that are just graduating from high school, or even juniors even, which is some unbelievably good advice, especially for our teachers out there who are constantly looking for ways to help their students kind of get forward and get into college. I know I am, even as a soccer coach, I'm always trying to find resources for my boys to continue their education, because obviously, like you said, the time for more education is now. I actually was reading this article that's on your Warriors Wallet website. It's actually, we'll go ahead and put a link to it. It's actually all about how to get more scholarship money, how to get into college, and how to make money not an issue. It says in this article that technical schools are a good way to go. And I've heard some other stuff, accreditation and stuff, can be a little bit harder. What are your thoughts on these trade schools, technical schools?
Well, I've got lots of education, a lot of Navy courses I've been through. I got my undergrad at the University of Oklahoma. I just recently finished up the last class of my master's degree, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, nice. Congrats.
Thank you so much. But all the work and all the things that I've been doing, university is a great place for thought, but it doesn't prepare you to walk into the door of a business, of a career, of an industry the way that tech school does. You can walk into the door knowing how to turn a wrench on a car, how to lay a very nice bead down for welding, show you how to walk into a plumbing job and have a chance to know what's going on.
Definitely.
If you get an MBA and you go work for someone, that's great if you're working for a Fortune 500 company, but they don't teach you how to build a business from scratch. They don't teach you how to run a small business.
I can vouch for that.
They don't teach you that, right? They teach you how to work in corporate America on a Fortune 500 level.
Amen. Definitely.
That's great for some people, but it's not great for all people. There's students like Student Pathways down here in Oklahoma City. All of the technical schools are paired up with the high schools. And if you qualify, you can do your last part of your last 2 years and your last whole year, and you can basically walk out at 18 or 19 with zero debt, ready to walk into one of these industries making 50, 60, 70 grand a year starting.
Yeah. I've actually had a couple of students on my soccer teams that have done that, because they do that here in Wichita as well. And that's really good for that, especially for the high school teachers out there, just to kind of give you even more options for your students out there. So tell us a little bit about Warriors Wallet just in general, though, because I think you've touched on it a bit. What is the goal of it? What can you do? What have you done? And what are you doing?
So initially got married, joined the Navy, had our daughter, got ourselves eyeballs deep in debt, and realized that I didn't know anything about personal finance. We had no money. And we got introduced to Dave Ramsey book, Financial Peace. And we read it. We started applying the principles. We did the 7 baby steps. Slowly but surely, we started paying off some debt and getting this breathing room, and found out that we did have money every month, but we were giving it away to all these lending institutions. And we finally got some breathing room. We were like, this is fantastic. Why isn't everybody doing this?
Right.
Started getting certifications through the Navy, took a couple of college classes, and started talking about this stuff. I was so amazed by what had happened in my family. I couldn't believe that other people weren't talking about it. And there's always this shame, this stigma attached to their finances, like somehow your finances should compare to this guy over here. And it's fake. It's false. Right. By not talking about it, just like most of the things in our history that we haven't talked about, it's way worse when we don't talk about it. Whether you're talking, military, first responders with PTSD, not talking about it made it way worse. We had the Me Too movement a couple of years ago when people were not talking about sexual assault. All of a sudden we're talking about it and people are getting help. And we're getting really close. There's a lot of groups online that have started talking about where they're at in their finances and how they can do better and how they can keep more of their money. And I started counseling sailors on their stuff, people at church, and I had grown and grown and grown and grown, but I hadn't put a name to it. I hadn't put a label on it or tag on it. And I went and searched the internet, and there's tons of financial blogs out there. And I kind of looked at military-specific financial blogs, and I looked at the top 5, and I really wasn't impressed with the product out there. I'm not saying mine are better. I'm saying I thought they could use some work on theirs. So I started a blog just to, categorize some of this stuff and put some stuff out there and share some stories about how we struggle and how we did it and what it's like living on a fixed income when you're in the military. I imagine a teacher's salary is probably the same thing, right? You're at that level until you're not at that level anymore.
Right.
And really put some teeth into it. Started talking about this stuff more, started getting on some podcasts, and people are like, how do I go to school? How do I pay for school? How do I do this? How do I get rid of these student loans? How do I pay for a house? I fed on it. I'm not out there doing this to try to become a gazillionaire or be rich and famous, but man, sharing that little bit of knowledge,
right?
Having a 15-minute discussion with someone and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that was an option. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I didn't have to take out student loans to go to school. I didn't know that I shouldn't lease a car. I didn't know that, fill in the blank. When I start talking about this stuff, when I start working with people and I start showing couples how close they are to the light at the end of the tunnel, like how much better they feel. I've had clients that made less than 20 grand a year that had more money than they know what to do with. And I've had clients, I had a surgeon making $350,000 a year, but if he didn't go to work every day, he'd be broke because he had to have that paycheck coming in.
Wow. Kind of jogged my memory on something. So I really wanted to ask you about what is combat recovery?
Reboot Combat Recovery?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm sorry.
Reboot Combat Recovery. So it's a 12-week PTSD course that I teach for veterans and first responders. I taught this a few years ago. Since then, the first responders have created their own little spinoff. But it's not a support group. It is a course to walk people who are struggling through their pain, to work through the false guilt. Why did I survive? Why did my buddy not survive? Talk through all these things and show them this is biblically based, and it shows them what God really thinks about them and what God really says about us in the Bible. And it's just an amazing program. It was hosted by Life Troops in Oklahoma City at the time. Life Troops has since merged with Storm. Both fantastic men of God and veterans, and they're doing great things. Little plug for the veteran community. If you're in the Oklahoma City area, there is so many resources for you.
Yeah.
Between Veterans for Life USA, Storm, Books by Vets, just tons and tons and tons of great people out there willing to help whatever it is that you're struggling with. PTSD, need a place to plug in, all that stuff. Just a phenomenal movement happening.
You can hear his passion for this. Like, he really is wanting the best out of others. He wants to help. I mean, you want to help other people, and it's at the core of everything you do. And I haven't even known you for, we've been on this episode for like 15 minutes, and I can see that already, which is beautiful. That's amazing. So thank you for that. One other thing right before we go to the break, because this is a podcast for teachers to start their week off on a positive note. So is there anything week to week that you might suggest, like you think could be a resource?
The two things I really wanted to get into more this year and be more engaged with and more involved in was my Bible and learning how to get into and be comfortable with meditation. If you're on my page at all, I have successfully posted a verse a day from the YouVersion Bible app. Just a little snippet, a little tidbit, little pick me up. Wonderful, wonderful app. And then I got into meditation. I downloaded the Headspace app.
Yep.
And it's guided meditation and something to do, especially if you're a teacher. I know you're listening to this. I know you love Fred and all his wacky, crazy guests that he has on here. But when you get somewhere, you don't have to run into the building. If you're coming to school to start your day, if you're going to an appointment, if you're heading to the grocery store, take 5 minutes, turn on the Headspace app, and just unwind just for 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to go nuts. You don't have to do 30 minutes or an hour or get in a weird position. But take that 5 minutes for you to recharge, because we all know you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes. Actually, I don't think I've ever had someone come on the podcast and actually give that advice to where, you don't have to go a million miles an hour all the time. Great. Well, we are going to go ahead. We're going to take a real quick break. We'll be right back. I love bringing you this podcast, but what I also love doing is impacting your students and your school community. And I do that through the Love and Success approach to leadership, which you can learn about on my website, fredmotivates.com. It's a 3-step approach that will help your students love themselves and others. The 3 steps are setting moral standards that are based on the person we want to be, refusing to settle for anything less than those moral standards, and then using the confidence gained in step 1 and step 2 to acknowledge, accept, and empower other people. Now, bringing this love and success approach to your school will craft better leaders on your campus, increase school community, and reduce bullying, depression, and the things that surround those subjects. So, if you want to support that getting into more schools, or if you want to just support this podcast coming to you every week with fresh guests and great content, you can go to fredmotivates.com, click on the shop button, and buy an Acknowledge Someone t-shirt or the Table of Love logo mug. Now, when you use the code TEACHERRECHARGE at checkout, that's TEACHERRECHARGE at checkout, you'll receive 10% off your entire order. Like I said, not only does that help the podcast, but that also helps more students receive the love and success approach to leadership. Go to fredmotivates.com to learn more about the love and success approach to leadership and support this podcast by using the code TEACHERRECHARGE at checkout on the shop tab today. Thank you, and back to the show. And we are back on the interview with Travis Johnson, and it is my favorite part of the week. My favorite part of the interview, it is story time. If you've never listened to this podcast, this is the part of the show where I just give the floor to Travis or whoever the guest is, and they just give me a story. This story could be sad, it could be happy, it could be comedic, it could be downright depressing. Whatever they want to say, the floor is theirs. So, Travis, the floor is yours.
All right, to all you Recharge listeners out there, I have got to tell you that it does not matter where you are today. It does not matter where you came from. You can choose and build a better tomorrow. Quick stats and highlights of my life. I moved 47 times, went to 12 schools, went to 5 different foster homes, even had people try to murder me twice. You don't have to bring that luggage with you. You can make and take new steps every day to learn something new, to increase your skills, to be a good person, to do something better, to reinvest in people, to reinvest in yourself, and move forward. It doesn't matter what you've been through. That does not define who you are. Move forward, take the steps, make the decision today to do something to help those around you. Short and sweet, but that's what I got for you today.
I love it. So I put a question on the Instagram. By the way, the Instagram is just Teacher Recharge. If you look that up, it is just, once again, Teacher Recharge. There's no spaces. Couple questions. First of all, how do you set up a monthly budget? How would you suggest doing that? as far as like step by step?
Well, it depends on where you're at. If you are
specifically for a full-time like teacher. Sorry. Yes, I should have been more specific.
Okay. For a full-time teacher, there's a lot of cool apps out there right now. Every Dollar is from Dave Ramsey. Mint is out there from Quicken, YNAB or YNAB. You need a budget. Fantastic budgeting apps out there. If you are in the digital age, you can link your bank account, especially through Mint, and it shows everything that you spent. You can link your credit cards, you can link your house payment, you can link your auto loan, and it will give you the most accurate, spot-on, up-to-date financial picture without having to pay some kind of financial advisor to go through this and sift through this with you. But you need to sit down and look at it and see where your money is going. So it's going to put them into all these categories for you. You have to decide if you were happy with how much is going into each category. There's a book called The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. He talks about something called the latte factor. And the latte factor is that little thing that you're spending money on daily or weekly that you're not really tracking.
Yeah.
You know, his example
like a latte
was a latte, right?
Starbucks.
This gal was spending $11 a day before lunch, but she was spending it every day. That's $55 a month, or $220 a year. Teachers, check my math, not a year but a month. $220 a month that you could be putting into something else. Definitely. I'm not saying don't get Starbucks. I'm saying buy the roast and brew it at home. Get a fancy Starbucks cup, walk around so you can still show people that you right? But it doesn't matter. You know what they think of your budget and the things you own, they don't matter. If you take that $220 and you have debt, you can attack that debt and get stuff paid off. If you have stuff paid off, you can use that whatever dollar amount to start building up a savings to take yourself on vacation. Quick story for you. I had a couple that had grown children and they were out of the house, and he sees my post on Warriors Wallet and he calls me up. He's like, Travis, I feel bad calling you, but I need your help. I was like, cool, man. Why don't we sit down? Why don't we, grab lunch or something and talk this out? And, we met up and I looked over his budget and all his finances, and it turned out that all of his budget was really good. The area that he really was, getting hemmed up on was actually his house. And both he and his wife traveled. They're gone all the time. They're only home together for a couple days each month. But that house was taking a $2,500 chunk out of their budget every month.
Oh, wow.
And this is a radical idea. This is not for everyone. I suggest this, and people get all grumpy with me. But I suggested, what do you think about downsizing your house? You have options. You have, a smaller single family house. You have trailer park. You've got small apartment. You've got tiny homes. You've got options out there. But this is taking a huge chunk out of your budget. And they said they would think about it. And they came back to me a few months later, and they wanted me to show me their new place. I was like, you guys decided something. That's awesome. We ended up at a trailer park by Lake Overholser in Oklahoma City. And they're only there like 4 or 5 nights a month. Yeah. But their rent is $300 a month. That $2,200 a month they've used to go on trips around the world.
Yeah.
Once a quarter, they went to Tahiti, and they went to Fiji, and they went to Spain, and they went to Italy, and they went to Brazil, because they didn't value the house as much as they thought they did. But by changing one area of their lifestyle, they were able to free up and do these amazing things. And I get all these fabulous pictures, and it says, because of you, because you were willing to show us something different.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it the way everyone else is doing it.
Hey, 2 stories. Why not? All right. So we got time. We got time for one more. So I'd like to pop in and ask you this last question from one of our listeners. So they want to know, because everybody's always saying you need to invest, you need to do something with investments. But in college, and unless you major in finance, or especially in high school, elementary, middle school, nobody really teaches you anything like that. So what would be your first step to investing, and what would even be the thought going into that?
Absolutely. So the best thing that I can push is long-term investing. There's short-term deals out there. There's all sorts of crazy information out there. I go to the expert when I want to know how to invest. Warren Buffett came out and said that people that are not familiar with investing can invest in index funds, specifically the S.H.I.N.E 500, and get a well-managed, well-rounded investment opportunity. He had some hedge fund guys that were kind of talking smack to him about his advice, and he said, fine, I'll put the S&P 500 again, whatever hedge fund that you want to for a period of time. And I can't remember if it was $500,000 or $1 million. He won the wager easily, hands down. So the S&P 500 has averaged 9.8% over the 90 years it's been in existence.
Yeah.
I remember it's 90 or 70, but 9.8% is flat out ridiculous compared to most investments.
Right. How much money would you say is needed to make that first initial investment?
Well, if you go through Fidelity, they have index funds, that are no cost, no minimum.
Okay.
So if you got $5 to put into it, you can start investing through Fidelity right now for no fees, because they'll rake you over the coal with fees, right? If they're going to take a percentage of everything you invest, instead of investing $5, you're investing $4.50. Now you're getting the whole $5.50, $500, whatever you put into the start.
Yeah.
The people that track millionaires and see what their habits are, the number one thing that millionaires do is save first. They pay themselves first. The amount doesn't matter. It's the habit that's going to pay off in the end.
Right. Fidelity, first of all, I just want to be clear. So do you work for Fidelity?
I do not work for Fidelity.
Okay, so it's unsolicited advice, so you know it's real. Just wanted to make sure we got that out there. But anyways, we are about at time. So if people want to kind of check you out to see what you're doing, get in touch with you, maybe even seek your advice, which would be awesome. How can they do that? Where can they find you?
You can check me out on warriorswallet.com. You can hit me up at Warriors Wallet on Twitter and on Facebook. You want the quickest response? Check out my page on Facebook. Absolute flat out fastest way to get to me and get a response.
Awesome. And we will have links to all of that stuff in the description. Travis, this has been a great episode. I'm sure everybody out there really appreciates your expertise. And I know I do. I appreciate it a lot. So thank you so much. It's been great.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity, Fred. I appreciate it.
We are almost at the end of the show, but first, the weekly challenge. Each week, I give you a challenge to motivate yourself, motivate your students, and make the biggest impact possible. It's based on a topic that was brought up in the interview. So this week, Travis Johnson talked about an app called Headspace. I would like you to try Headspace. Take 5 minutes. All it does is take 5 minutes. You can set it up for that. It helps you meditate, breathe, and kind of recharge. And you can do it pretty much anywhere. It's really interesting. It taught me a lot, and it's helped me feel a lot better and lose some of the anxiety. So that is your weekly challenge. Also, don't forget to go to fredmotivates.com/shop and support the podcast. You can use the code TEACHERRECHARGE at checkout to get 10% off your entire order. Until next week, much love.